not want to run in one to the other so we can edit it. But one's going to be about your history with Ross Ward. One's going to be about the restoration of this project. Those probably can run together if you want. And then about your art, we want to ask you about that, and then we just want to ask you about how we're restoring the museum and the story of Madrid from your perspective.
Well, why don't you ask me what my art is, because that leads into what how I actually want to go in. Who in the hell is Ross Ward?
Okay.
You know?
Well, who are you? And tell us about your art then.
Well,
are you ready?
Because it's a long story. But
okay.
Okay, well, essentially, 1975, I got really angry with Nixon. I thought, I'm going to leave the country, but I was only planning on leaving for 3 months. 10 years later, I had a house and a mortgage and a wife and a baby and the full catastrophe, as over the Greek said. So somewhere along the point, I decided to come back to America 14 years later, of which I wound up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, doing what I've been doing for the last 14 years, which was painting murals in the community. So I'm down on First Street in Albuquerque painting what I call the dawn and dusk of rock and roll heaven, with Elvis Presley on one side. As it turned out, it was going to be Jimi Hendrix on the other side, but it wound up being a guy named called Louis Madrid. He's still there in Cop House. So anyway, I'm in the middle of the Elvis Presley, up on a 12-foot ladder painting, when I hear someone behind me. And mind you, I'd been out of the country 14 years. I left in 1973. I came back in 1986. You know, so like I'm painting up on a 16-foot ladder, and I hear this voice, "Hey, bro, that's bad." I go, "Right on." He said, "No, man, it's really bad." I go, right on, thanks." He said, "No, man, that's really bad." I go, "What? Is he out of his mind?" I turned around expecting to see a black guy yelling at me, and there's a white guy yelling at me. And I nearly fall off the ladder. I'm so in shock. I go, "Oh, what?" And I go, "What do you mean, you don't like it?" He said, "No, it's bad." I said, "Well, what's bad about it?" "Well, I mean, you know, it's so bad, it's good." I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" He said, "You know what, bro?" I said, "No." He said, "That's bad, but you know what?" I said, "No, what?" "Ross Ward can paint circles around your asshole." And he turns around and walks off, you know. And I'm going, who is Ross Ward? A year later, I'm walking down a hall saying, "But Ross, if you be part of this exhibition with other artists." He said, "I don't want anything to do with artists. They're all crazy. You don't get grants for nothing, painting rocks in the desert. The hell with them. You know what to do is to get 2 kids through college." I'm going, God, this guy's so mean. He says, "Anyway, if you want to talk to me, I'm busy, so follow me along." So I'm going, right. And he's going, "Yeah, what do you want?" I'm going, whoa, and I've never seen such perfect fleur-de-lis painting going on in my whole life. And it was just like every brushstroke was a Zen master stroke. And all I could hear in my voice was, "You know what? Ross Ward can paint circles around your asshole." And it was true. I went, whoa, man. I said, "Okay, Ross, fine, you know, sometime." So over the course of the years, I got to know him better, and as I always said, the best compliment I ever had was shortly before Ross died. I used to get choked up thinking about it. First of all, I stopped. I didn't even recognize him. He said, "Yeah, and I'm all beat to hell." I go, "Whoa, Ross, what happened?" He said, "Hey, you know, I just brought my boy here because I wanted him to meet a real artist." I went, "What?" You know, it's like 20 years later, you know, Ross comes back to me and complimented me. It was like, and I didn't know he was dying. I just thought, boy, he's really in bad shape. Anyway, and the irony of irony, I wind up living in Madrid, where this was slowly being beaten to death. And Lori and Melinda asked me early on if I would restore it, and as part of my history has been, I restored a lot of major artworks that are very big on canvas, on walls. I restored all the Pueblo Indian Cultural Center murals completely. They're all destroyed. I did the Telluride Opera House curtain. It was destroyed, and I did it for practically nothing. Anyway, someone came in behind me, got a lot of money, but painted it in their own style. So that's the thing about restoration, is that when you restore something, you want it to actually look like really the original artist did it, you know, which is like, I think I've meshed pretty good into Ross's handiwork.
I think you have.
It's hard to see where one of us began and one of us stopped off, so, you know, those that know can point it out, but it would take some serious inspection to see the, you know, which is like what it is to be a restoration artist. You're supposed to restore the artist, not yourself, you know. So you step behind the real artist and you just try to pull out the genius of what their particular genre was, which Ross was a Carney painter. This is absolutely classic Carney painting. And knowing Ross, I would say that, you know, in his prime time, he could have probably painted this easily in one day, because he was really good. No one is better than him. He was really good. Everyone that knew him and talked about him said, "Yeah, but you know what? Ross Ward should be in this exhibition." I go, "Yeah, I know he should have been." And he was like really the first New Mexican artist to like introduce fresco, or like Rivera, you know, the Mexican murals. Diego Rivera. Anyways, he's one of, and you know, TinkerTown. So, and you know, to be doing an exhibition of my artwork and his artwork and together in a museum setting is so cool. That in fact we're both being honored, you know, just by following tribute is what it's all about, you know. When you're an artist, it's like you pay tribute to the great ones before you, you know. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what type of undertaking it was to restore this mural?
Yeah, this one, well, first of all, Ross was an economist. He never got very much money for the mural, so he used the most expedient material possible. In other words, he used really lightweight muslin, like bed sheets, and house paint to like fix this. And he probably introduced better paints as once he got it sized up, but it was very, very thin and very fragile. And had it been stored properly over the years, it wouldn't have made any difference. But it got put in a roll-up, roll-down situation where over the years it cracked naturally, but people banged it, put their elbows in it, and it just generally, and it started drying out. So then when it was finally cut down in space for the last 10 years and put into the bar, it had 2 or about 3 inches of gap behind the very almost like eggshell. You have to imagine this is like an eggshell now. It's so dry, and it's been in the bar. It's got so, you know, it's just like horizontal flat eggshell, you know. So people would go up with their guitars and bang into it. So there'd just be fractures and breaks or tears and holes. The whole center was gone. All up along the top was all completely, because that was where it got curled the most. It got completely fractured and broken off, and the paint just fell off. And same with the bottom, because it was the exterior part that would get the most of abuse, and also people kicked, so the whole bottom wasn't even there. It was like it was tatters hanging like that. Originally it was almost 3 feet bigger in the top and bottom. But the top and bottom just disappeared. I mean, there was nothing left of it, and what was left of the top was just blue sky. So, you know, it was just because they needed space for it originally being a theater curtain. So it really wasn't. This is the crux of the mural. In other words, so what was cut off wasn't that essential to it. That was before me anyway, so there was nothing I could do about even bringing, you know, I don't know where the missing parts are.
Did you say this was house paint or acrylic paint?
Well, he probably put a base of undercoat of house paint on it, and you know, gessos and stuff, because he wasn't going to spend $30 a gallon to paint on cheap stuff, you know. But you know, it was because it was raw muslin, like, or linen, you know, needed to be fixed so the paint wouldn't bleed through it. So he did that first, and then he would use what he had at times. He was not a purist. If he had the best paints, he used best paints. But if he had some acrylic and some oil. Okay, he'll he'll mix them up like this, but he knew how to let it dry, so he could do that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a real, you know, he just used what he had, you know. And he I'm pretty sure he was probably trained in water-based tempera as a, you know, a carny painter, because that was the cheapest paint you could buy. And you could also buy it in any of the little towns you could go in, you know. They'd have these color charts for little kids and things, so you could get, you know, that kind of paint anywhere you went. So, and, you know, so what? It fell off when it got wet. They usually were thrown away in 2 or 3, you know, shows anyway, you know.
Is it pretty obvious to you? I mean, this piece doesn't look like it's signed, but I know that he was commissioned to do this. But his style is so obvious; it seems like it's pretty clear when it's a Ross Ward piece.
Yeah, I mean, he was a signature painter. I mean, his identity really was his brushstroke, you know, and the fastness of the line, you know, and just the absolute, you know. I mean, like these lines, we didn't stand there going, oh, I think I'll do that. He was just.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he painted. He was like a fencer, you know. It was unbelievable to see how he knew exactly the amount of liquid in the brush and how much extension he could get out of it, you know, out of the line. It was incredible. It was like that day he was doing the fleur de lis and the blue heron or whatever it was called. He even tapered it, you know. I mean, there would be these crisp, beautiful lines that would sweep into like a broad, you know, curvature, and then they would come down and go into a. And then they would like just fade off and disappear in the center. Wow. It's like wet brush and dry brush technique all in one swoop, you know. It was just unbelievable. Nothing was like penciled on the wall or anything, you know. It was just like, and he was, and that's Ross Ward's, that's what I say, he's a signature painter, because you can, I mean, although because I had to cover some of the lines, but they were so faded. And I went about it very slowly. I you know, mathematically went about reconstructing some of his lines. So the absolute real brush strokes have a little bit disappeared, but not much.
He would.
I mean, you see these brush strokes. You know, him just doing like that. He knew exactly what the brush was going to do. Yeah.
And you had mentioned earlier about his carny style. Is that more representative than, I guess, of his carny background?
The carny style is like the angels, you know, and the villain, and the nude flying behind the, you know, and the whole train, the train motif, you know, it's big, dramatic, just like a Cecil B. DeMille, like, you know, beginning of a movie, boom, 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 and then the, you know, but these little jokes, you know, like in carny houses, these little like creatures and goblins that they would paint around places, you know, so. And just like, you know, the signage even, you know, like this is what you would expect to see in one of the fast food places, or, you know, or Freak Show, you know, the Freak Show.
One of the things that really strikes me about this image and all of Ross's work that I've seen is his subject matter, and it's still, even though it was painted, this is probably 30 years old at least, it still rings true today.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, and it's iconic painting, you know. I mean, it's like the idea that, you know, they say, "Oh, a howling coyote, it's been painted out. It's just a fad. It's not, you know." But it's not true when you run into a real master painter. Ross Ward could always paint a better new howling coyote, because each one he would paint would be original, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it would be. He was innate. He had a sense of innate creation. It was all in his head. It just bubbled out of him and onto the you know, as a muralist. I mean, we identified with each other a lot, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and he stopped in here twice. He'd stopped in once before, years before, and he left me a message. In fact, I still have it. I kept it. It was a very nice, very, very, you know, to the heart message. I thought, wow, Ross Wood stopped to see me? I don't believe it. So I drug people to him for years. You know, muralists that would come into town. I'd say, this is my friend, Carlos Cajellos. Is one of the most, I've heard of Carlos. All right, well, this is Carlos. you know, so I'd bring him all these people that, you know, that he got to know. So it was cool. getting to know him, and then Carla, who has the museum, you know, I mean, you look at that place, that's just total, you know, that's that's a carnival, you know. So it was not only what he painted and his style, but it was his life, you know. I mean, it was really his spirit, you know. He was kind of a carny person, and I mean, that's probably just the guy excluded himself in that little hole back there, you know, doing his little fun, you know, invention towns and the car, you know, they're hilarious, you know. All of his stuff is just filled with love and humor, you know. I mean, really, you know, you can't take it too serious. It's not like it's Rubens or you know, Da Vinci or you know, but this is what I call contemporary native Americana, and I mean native in the broadest sense of being a people of the land, and because Ross really was a New Mexican painter. He was as native as any of the native painters we have, Jose Rey de Toledo or Helen Pablito Velarde. I mean, they're truly Native American painters. But Americana means they were kind of doing their soul, you know, during the last 100 years or whatever. That's contemporary, right? So really, Ross's work really fits into a broad category of people that are in that. I mean, some of us are still alive, some are dead, you know, but it's basically contemporary, which is all over the place. Native, which is all over the place as far as icons and, you know, information. And Americana, it's relevant to like, you know, the color and, you know, the images you see in a place. I mean, in New Mexico, I mean, his stuff works. Might not work everywhere, but pretty much would. But it really works here because the colors are totally New Mexican, you know. I mean, you can't get more New Mexican than that in colors, you know.
I think we're really fortunate to find you, Ken, someone that knows him and appreciates his work and has the passion and ability to restore this beautiful mural. I think it was some kind of a guided destiny, you know. Yeah. Just as I was almost forced to meet him in the very beginning, you know. I'm going, what does this guy get lost? What does it mean? It's bad. It's bad. Go away. He was like a fly in my ear, you know. And then he would turn around and say, yeah, but Ross Ward could paint circles around you. You know, it was such a curiosity. So, yeah, I feel very happy that it's, you know, this has turned out this way. It's cool. Yeah, we're restoring the Madrid's old coal town museum, and we're seeing the connectivity with TinkerTown Museum and Ross Ward's work and work such as your own. So we're really excited that this is all coming together at the same time.
Well, and see, that typifies, I mean, really, it's a regional thing. I mean, like the Galisteo Basin, you think about the number of artists, you know, between here and Galisteo. Forget Santa Fe. Just over here, follow the basin down, you know, to Galisteo and back up here. It's an incredible number of contemporary Native Americana, you know, people. Or, you know, Americana, I mean, it doesn't mean if you're American, exactly. Probably Europeans are over there doing that stuff, you know. Or, you know, for me, it's like I spent 14 years out of America. And really, for me, it was the University of Life as an artist that I learned, but I learned it all in Europe. You know, most of it, you know. And when I came back, I used what I learned in Europe to keep me alive in America, you know, but, you know, so, I mean, you know, Americana is kind of a broad word. It means you're more than just a simple rustic, you know, I mean, but if you are, you're a genius, simple rustic, you know. I mean, those kind of artists that are out there, you know, they don't know shit about anything, but you look at their work and you go, wow, where are they coming from, you know? What do they call them? The kind of the blessed retards. That's what I consider myself. Hey, Wolverton, you're retarded. Yeah, so what's it to you? I'll keep it here.
Would you characterize your work in the same genre?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I can tell you, there's Liz Faulkner, who's a painter, I would say it's the same. Robert Anderson, who's a contemporary, you know, paints up at Jeanette's Williams Gallery, you know, who does all the lyrical stuff, you know, he's really classically trained. he's definitely a contemporary Native Americana, you know. Ruth's got, Chuck and Janine, who have all their native paintings, what's their last name? Have all their work in Ruth's shop, you know. It's all this very basic, native, you know, they're like Abiquiu, up where the church is, you know, where the holy church is. I mean, those paintings, you see all the religious sites and everything. So, I mean, there's bunches of artists around here that, James Hayes, you know, totally. You know?
I just had someone ask me this morning why so many artists are in this area.
Well, they revibrate off each other's work, you know, really. I mean, because it's the colors that people use in New Mexico, you know. I mean, and just the because we have to compete with this fantastic geography. You know, we have to, like, in our lines, in our formation of images, we have to, in a way, justify what we're doing is just as dynamic as what's going on out there. Some of people try to paint what's going out there, and I go, give me a break. Why they just anyway? But it's great painting landscapes, you know. It just depends on what the final, where you as an artist are going with it, you know. And so there's a whole bunch of people here, I would say, fit into that, you know. And it's a regional thing, really. It's there. People say, "Oh, well, you're just mixing, you know, apples and oranges. That's bullshit. What you're talking about." But it's not really. There's a New Mexican artist. I mean, that's why people have always come here. New Mexican artists way back from the 20s. You know, the ones that wound up in Taos, the Taos 7. They brought, because those people were out here painting, they attracted all these other artists that came, you know. And it's not a thing of even trying to be better than someone, but rather than, I mean, I love it when I see a genius work, you know. It inspires me. Someone's better than me, I go, wow, cool. That's really cool, man. I got something to learn yet, you know. I'm inspired by it, you know. I mean, that's why I go to museums, like, or, you know, in Europe particularly, you go to, God, you see Botticelli or Rubens or, you know, or Van Gogh or, you know, Matisse or, you know, or Picasso. You actually see them in museums. You go, wow, that's what good is about. You know, instead of going, oh, they're not any good, I'm going to paint better than that. It's like, forget it. Who wants to paint better? Paint what your own world is, you know. But find what they find, which is, you know, as I say, each kind of region, but it's a time, you know, I mean, it's a sequence of time. People have to, the dynamics have to be set up, you know. I mean, 20 years ago it didn't work here because the people weren't here. And the makers and the shakers weren't here, you know. It wasn't a nucleus of really an intelligentsia that was like together yet. It was forming, and it had come and gone over the years, but, you know, it was kind of nowhere 20 years ago. And then this last 20 years, suddenly till now, there's this, you yourself, I mean, you know, and Lori and the whole thing happening at the mine shaft, and the great music that you've been bringing in, you know, at the mine shaft, and the exhibitions, the artwork. I mean, it's all networking, you know. It's all, and all the galleries. I mean, there's 45 places in Madrid now that, one way or the other, deal in art. A lot of them, you know, doing their own work, like Liz Patterson and, you know, what's her name, Connie, all those people, you know.
Yeah.
But that many art galleries in one little town of only 600 people, you know, and it's amazing because almost everybody is still surviving. They're not doing well, but you know, they're not sinking yet. This winter may be the killer, but we'll find out, huh?
Yeah, it seems like everybody's very passionate, at least.
Yeah. You know, well, we're all connected with what we're doing. You know, be here now. You know? And that's really the simplicity of it. I think we're all old hippies in this village, you know. And that was the message in this, you know, really in the 60s was be here now. And it meant for all sides of it, you know. I mean, you know. Krishnamurti, one of the proponents of that message early on, as he got older, he kind of extended to his last two sentiments of living, which was the first was perceive what is, which kind of sometimes is hard for, you know, for people to get to, you know, to perceive what is, because you always get yourself in a past, future, you know, thing, you know. And sometimes you get mixed up. You don't really know whether you know what other people are doing out there or not, you know. It gets all mixed up. So to perceive what is complicated, you know. But then when people ask him about it, you say, well, what does that mean? Well, he says, what it means is the observer is observed. The observer observed. So what do you want to know about perceive what is? You just turn it around, be here now. You know, it's like this, and that's what this town is about. It's kind of like this rattlebrain kind of philosophy of old hippie mystic, you know, and which comes out with the fact none of us get too pissed off with each other. Like we all get to be assholes in the village at least once or twice or several times, as long as it's not a consistent run. You know. And the next morning, it's like it never happened. Or someone might remind you, oh, by the way, Ken, you did leave a bar tab last night. What? Again? Gina, what are you going at?
That's great.
All right, come on, Gina. Gina. All right. You still go on? Is that it?
We can make it done.
That was great, Ken.